Aloha aina, aloha kākou. I am Janos Shamu, and as a national, I represent the lawful Hawaiian government, the Hawaiian Independence Alliance, and also the American Friends Service Committee, in other words, the Quakers. First of all, I would like to thank you for flying the flag of Hawaiian independence, solidarity, and sovereignty, or wearing or displaying its symbol. Please continue to do so. I wonder if you have ever been to Sandia National Laboratories in Los Alamos, New Mexico. If you have, you could not have missed the plaque on the wall at the visitor center there. I have seen many different plaques around the world, but this one surprised me when I saw it. It was a thank you plaque to those who worked in the so-called Manhattan Project and invented the atomic bomb. Of course, the justification has been placed next to it, claiming that the atomic bomb saved thousands of American lives. Well, the historians came up with the idea that in 1945 the United States had no way of convincing the Japanese to surrender. Therefore, they used their most convincing power, namely dropping the atomic bomb, a 15-kiloton uranium bomb, on Hiroshima on August 6, instantly killing 70,000 people, mostly civilians. And to put the dot on the I, 3 days later, dropping a 22-kiloton plutonium bomb on Nagasaki, incinerating instantly 40,000 people. Yes, Japan surrendered. But the historians since then came up with new findings and uncovered more details about the circumstances of this very sad event. They claim that these bombs saved American lives is only hypothetical, because it is a theory only. But the 110,000 Japanese that they killed instantly is a fact. The stark fact is that the Japanese leaders, both military and civilian, including the emperor, were willing to surrender already in May 1945 if the emperor could remain in place and not be subjected to a war crimes trial after the war. This fact became known to President Truman as early as of May 1945. After the bombs were dropped on August 6 and 9 of 1945 and their surrender soon thereafter, the Japanese were allowed to keep their emperor on the throne, and he was not subjected to any war crimes trial. In fact, it would appear that President Truman and his war cabinet didn't really want the Japanese surrender until the two bombs that the Manhattan Project had produced had been demonstrated on two Japanese cities. The target audience of those two mushroom clouds were not Japanese leaders in Tokyo, but rather Stalin and the Soviet government. There was talk in the Pentagon and President Truman's war room of taking advantage of America's monopoly on nuclear weapons to attack the USSR and make sure it could never develop a bomb. In fact, there was talk of using atom bombs to destroy Russia as an industrial nation. The problem, as physicists Michio Kaku and Daniel Axelrod wrote in a well-researched and documented book called To Win a Nuclear War, the Pentagon's Secret War Plans, was that Pentagon strategists felt 300 A-bombs would be required to destroy Russia. But as of December 1945, the US atomic stockpile was only 2 bombs. Production was painfully slow, and even by 1948 there were only 50 bombs. But the pace of construction was accelerating, and by January 1949 there were 133 bombs. It was looking like there would be the needed 300 bombs to launch what was called Operation Dropshot, an all-out first strike on 200 Soviet targets by the end of the year. Then in August 1949, to the astonishment of the US government, the Soviet Union exploded its first bomb, a plutonium device remarkably similar to the American one that destroyed Nagasaki. This was thanks to two spies, the German Klaus Fuchs and the Jewish Ted Hall, who were outstanding physicists working on the American nuclear project in Sandia laboratories, but voluntarily spying for Russia. The ultimate death toll in Hiroshima and Nagasaki eventually exceeded 300,000, including those who died of radiation sickness, burns, and later of cancers from the radiation, all from what by today's standards were two tiny atom bombs. As we look back, it's worth noting that the spying efforts of Fuchs, Hall, and many other lesser figures, including Julius Rosenberg and his wife Ethel, who were both executed in 1953 for treason, which helped accelerate the development of a Soviet bomb, not only saved the USSR, but also gave the world 74 years, so far, free of atomic bombs exploding in war. Those years have also been free of head-to-head battles between great powers, since no nation would attack another nation that possessed nuclear weapons, knowing that such an attack would quickly result in a nuclear war. And where are we now? According to the Pentagon's June Nuclear Operations, or Joint Publication 372, which was unsurprisingly made private not long after its release, the US believes that developing nuclear contingency plans sends an important signal to adversaries and enemies that the US has the capability and willingness to employ nuclear weapons to defend itself and its allies and partners. Nuclear weapon capabilities constitute a vital element of national defense, the document states, for military operations to include deterrence, crisis response, strike assessment, and return stability. What stability? After a nuclear attack, you should be happy to be alive. The Pentagon apparently believes that it is necessary and prudent to pre-plan nuclear attack options for contingencies prior to a crisis, as a means to assess the nature and extent of unintended consequences. My question is, do those military strategists and the American president know that the so-called unintended consequences may hit them as well when the first counterstrike comes? Russia is willing to negotiate an anti-nuclear treaty, but the willingness on the American side is missing. It is us who has to demand it now. Mahalo. Thank you, everyone.